Welcome to the Elikus channel. This is going to be class number 10 in the discourse Kol Machlokes 5672, which is the sixth discourse in the overall book, B'Shashe Ekdimu, 5672. Again, this is the sixth discourse, and this is going to be class number 1 in chapter 23. We're beginning a new chapter 23. Every discourse has a few chapters. This is the third chapter in discourse number 6. Okay, so I was excited about this part of the Maimer. It's very, very beautiful, very special, in which he brings this incredible godly example to explain this idea of how the whole concept of tzimtzum b'derech miyut. How is it that you have the descent of the light, the infinite light, when it is already containing within itself a very hidden 10 sefirot, but at that state, as we learned in chapter 22, it's not conceivable and not yet meant to be introduced to become the life force or the underlying infrastructure for creation. So instead, the light has to go through a great tzimtzum, a contraction, and that contraction diminishes the light. However, we're emphasizing over here, this is a tzimtzum b'derech miyut, which means this is not a complete cutaway from what once was. The initial esses agnuzais are still going to be present in the new version of what's going to come out, because it's not a complete metamorphosis. It's not a complete disconnect from what was, because the tzimtzum is not complete. The tzimtzum is only b'derech miyut, in a state of diminishment. Unlike the way the kelim, the vessels, evolve, they become completely disconnected from their source in the Or Ein Sof. And hence the difference is very important idea that we were learning in the earlier discourse is we were learning hence the difference between why and Atzilus, if you keep on connecting, so we keep the thread going. So we were learning earlier the difference why Atzilus has the world of emanation, which is where the Sefirot are. On the one hand, we say that they are Yesh Maayon, something from nothing. And even Chachma, which is the highest one of them, is called Yesh Maayon. V'Chachma Maayon Timatzeh. Chachma, wisdom, comes from nothingness, which means the relationship of wisdom, which is the first of these 10 sefirot, to the godly energy or the godly life force that is above that, is considered as it's utterly new, so much so that it's utterly inconsequential and nothing compared to its source. It's not like a continuation of the source. It's a complete breakaway. But on the other hand, we say about Atzilus, we learned that Atzilus is Giloy HaHelam. It's a revelation of what was concealed. That it's just bringing forth a potential. So the way he's reconciling it is that he's differentiating between oiros and kalim. The vessels are created in a manner of complete disconnect of what was before. But the oiros, the lights, are still a continuum. Because of the concept of the esses agnuzais, which in the Or Ein Sof there's already 10 spheres, 10 attributes. However, those attributes are all in a state of iskalalos. They're all one, and they're infinite. And as we learned yesterday, the light in them is very, very intense, and it would be utterly infinite, and the worlds couldn't handle that. So hence the tzimtzum, which the tzimtzum does a makeover on that light. And the main point is it allows each light to come forth separately. Each hidden potential in that light comes forth on its own. When it comes forth separately and independently, that causes the light to be radically changed and incredibly reduced. For that, he's going to give a mashal, but yet in essence, it's still exactly what was before. Like we learned yesterday about the ray of the sun. The ray of the sun, when it comes out of the sun, is much, much, much weaker than when it was in the sun. Yet it's the same ray that was once within the sun. Okay. But now he's going to give a very, very beautiful mashal. And again, this is a mashal of the Alter Rebbe. I think the Alter Rebbe originated this mashal. That's what I think. I think it's his own. And here we go. Mashal b'zeh, and the metaphor for this. Again, chapter 23. When you have a gathering in a combination of 3 or 4 letters, yachad together, nasas mem teva achas, that produces one word. Words are made up of letters. So if you take any word, it's composed of a few letters. Now, once a few letters come together to compose a word, that houses, so to speak, it facilitates, it becomes a faculty, it becomes a home for an idea. Every word has an idea to it. Let's take Mashiach. Mashiach is an enormous idea. Literally means the anointed one. When you say Mashiach, it means the entire new world that's going to bring the world to its ultimate purpose, whatever. But that Mashiach is only Mashiach when the Mem, the Shin, and the Yud and the Ches are all together. These letters are together. If you take the Mem that was once part of the word Mashiach and you run away with it, and you present someone just with a Mem, the Mem can mean so many different things. First of all, it's only a Mem. It's attachable to so many different words. But yet, right? So even though it's the exact same letter, and it was once part of this grandiose word, which has so much incredible deep meaning, but once you snip it off and you separate it from the other letters that it was once part of, a greater concept that was all enclosed in that word, it is like unrecognizable, because that which is contained in that mem is nothing in comparison to what was contained when the mem was attached to the other 3 letters. I'm using the word Mashiach, but he's going to use another word, the word Baruch. It's beautiful that he takes the word. He could have taken any word, but Baruch means blessing. So why not talk about blessing? Because that's what we want to bring to the world. We want to bring blessings to the world. Okay. So he says, when you have a few letters together comprising a word, Asheri Keli, which that is a Keli, that is a vessel. Laskolas is a inyan to the comprehension, to understanding any idea. Shaskola zumuvenes betech oisies elu. This concept is understood from within these letters. Al derech mashal. Let's use an example. He says, Tev is Baruch. The word Baruch, which in Hebrew means blessed. Shebitzirufai dal oisies yachad. You have 4 letters together. 4 letters together. Beis, Reish, Vav, Chaf. These 4 letters, musag muskal b'zeh inyan bracha. So this is understood. It makes you understand the concept of a blessing. What does the concept of a blessing mean? People in the world, everybody knows what a blessing is. People are seeking a blessing. Sometimes people go out and search for a special place to get a blessing. Right? And we always bless each other. So what does blessing mean? So he explains. Ish, someone is blessing, a person is blessing. Simple meaning of a blessing means that someone is telling someone else, giving them a wishes, so to speak, that the recipient of the blessing should have growth and should increase. What should increase? The good things in his life should increase. Tuvai, the good things in his life, let's say his livelihood, or should have all the other good things that make life good. Should have children, should have healthy children. His health should increase. That's what he says. It's the concept of a blessing is you're blessing someone that they should have more than what they have now in goodness, more health, more life, longevity, which means longer life. If they didn't have children, they should have children. If they want more children, they should have more children. If they have children, they should have grandchildren. There should be an expansion of goodness in the person's life, whatever it is. And that's the concept that you say is a blessing. It's a well-wishing that someone is wishing someone else. So this, and it's conveyed only in that word. What other word does that mean? That someone is wishing someone else an increased goodness. One word for that. blessing, in English blessing, in Hebrew baruch, or a bracha. Now, when we're talking about, now he's going to go a little bit parenthetical. Since we're talking about blessing and we're applying it to a blessing from God, there's also blessings from above, which is obviously a much more powerful blessing. So for regarding to the supernal blessings from above, which we find in the Torah from the very get-go, we find in that God blesses Abraham, right? I will make you great, I will make you great. But even before that, God blesses Adam and Eve, that they should be fruitful, they should be multiplied. And even before that, God blesses the fish. I think they're the first ones to be blessed, that God gives them a blessing. So we see that the concept of blessing, right? Hashem gives a bracha. And when you say the word bracha, when it's referring to above, it's hinted to it not just a blessing, but the source from where all increased goodness comes from where all good goodies come from. The root and the source from where all the blessings come from. And it's hinted to in the word baruch. B'tevis baruch. The word baruch itself is not only the general idea that there is a well-wishing, that there should be an increasing of goodness in someone's life, whether from one person wishing someone else, or whether it's coming from above, from God, but that the word is actually telling you where it's going to be increased from. Why? As it says in the Zohar, in the Tikkunim of the Zohar, there are 70 Tikkunim of the Zohar, which were written by the Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. And in those Tikkunim, over there it explains in one of the Tikkunim, the Baruch, that the word Baruch, Rashi Tevis, is an acronym. The first letters of the word spell out, not in the right order, meaning the letters are Beis, Reish, Vav, Chaf. Here you're going to start with Reish first, and then Vav, and then Chaf, and then Beis. The Beis is going to be the last. It's like you take the first letter and you put it behind them all. And yet, the word Baruch stands for this. What is that? Roish umakar kol bracha. The head. Reish stands for the word Rosh, which means head. Vav means and. So here we add which word and? And source. The head and the source, kol bracha, of every blessing. The head and the source of all blessings. So Baruch doesn't only mean the actual flow, but from where the flow comes from. And he explains right away that is referring to the divine level called Keter, the crown. Because the crown is still Or Ein Sof, is still infinite. See, once things come in already into the system, there's a certain limitation. They're fixed. The 10 spheros, which are the source, we're learning in all these discourses over here. 10 spheros, they are the first vessels that receive the divine energy. Yeah, but it's already a vessel, a container, and therefore there's only that much amount of light that fits into that container, so to speak. It has a measure to whatever degree. So it's already fixed. But if you want to get to an ultimate blessing where things can increase indefinitely and infinitely, you have to go to Keser, which is the Or Ein Sof, the infinite light. So therefore, the word the Baruch is indicative of Keser. That's what he says. V'hainu, Shodesh HaBracha, which is the root of all blessing, Shenimshach Mebchinas HaKeser, that is drawn from Keser. And that is the word. So there's a lot of deep meaning in this word Baruch. When you're saying Baruch Ata Hashem, you're referring, you're triggering, you're stimulating, you're reaching for to shake up Keser, and from there draw down a blessing. Cool. Now in Zohar, that's in Tikkunei Zohar. But in Zohar Parshas Eikev, so there's Tikkunim of the Zohar, and then there are the Zohar on the Parsha, the Midrash Zohar. The Zohar is the Drush on the Parsha. So in Parshas Eikev, probably on the verse V'chalta v'savata u'bayrachtas Hashem, maybe not, there's a lot of bracha in Parshas Eikev. Baruch atah ba'ir, Baruch atah b'sad. I'm not exactly sure where the Zohar is, but over there it says that over there it pinpoints the word Baruch not to be indicative of Keser, but a lower level, which is Chachma. The Baruch hu b'Chachma. That Baruch is in Chachma. Ubederech klal. Now the Rebbe Rashab, the author says, Ubederech klal. In Chachma itself, ub'chinas Yisoid Abba. we know that in all the sphirot, they all include, like we learned earlier, the union of the idea of iskalalos. They all include all the other spheros. So in Chachma, it's the Yesod element of Chachma, which Yesod is the foundation of the Chachma. What does that mean? So let's stop for a moment. So we have two things over here. First, he identified it as Keser, and that's in Tikkun Zohar, because it says Roishu Makar Kol Bracha. Then he's identifying in a Parshas Ekev with Chachma. And he right away explains it's the Baruch element of Chachma is the Yesod of Chachma. So let's try to break that down for a moment. What's the difference between Keser and Chachma? Keser, in a sense, is still a potential that doesn't have nothing exists yet. It's still pre-existence. It's still pure ayin, nothingness. Now, it says that in prayer is when we can stimulate that very high level, because we can draw down from a place that is still before existence. But generally explains that when you do Baruch is more you're hitting download. The concept of when you say Baruch and davening, usually it means it's as if you hit on a certain file, and you hit download, and when you download, you're downloading. What you're accomplishing is you're not creating it in its source. You can only download from what exists within the download head, in the site from where you're downloading from, whatever was uploaded there by whoever uploaded it. You can take that whatever it is and download it, or it's like, hitting from your account, and you have money in your PayPal account, or you have money in your bank account, or whatever it is, and you hit transfer, or you hit, to make a payment, to send the money to somebody. When you're doing that, the money has to be in the account, and then from the account, then you're taking from there. And therefore, if this is the case of Chachma, of Baruch, that's why we say that's the difference, that bracha, who can give a blessing? Someone who has access to the supernal accounts. But it means that something is already within the account. Keser in this level is still energy that's beyond being settling into any account. So therefore, more appropriate to say where the Baruch is, that you're kidding Chachma. Where Chachma is the beginning of all existence. So it's like where Hashem has already packed in all the potential, all the good that he's already delivering for the world is packed into that Yud. Yud Chachma is a Yud. It's concentrated in a point. A lot of times, energies and life things remain in that point. They don't come from potential into actualization. They're not drawn down. So the idea is to draw it down. That's what I think the reason is why we are now stepping away from it being in Keser. In a sense, of course, you can say that Keser is also Baruch. But Keser is a very, very distant level of Baruch. It's very, very, first of all, it's very hard to get there. Because Keser is not reachable. It's above. So to say that someone is plugged into Keser is very, very hard. It's very hard. It's not your regular blesser. I'm not saying it isn't possible. Mashiach is plugged into Keser, right? That's where his soul root is an Atik Yomen, fine. But generally, the Keser is still pre-blessing, higher than blessing. But the more closer level from where blessings can be drawn from is from Chachma. Chachma is already the beginning of existence. It's the beginning of Metzias. It's just that over there, everything is still in the original. So from there, to draw it down further, it comes from, the Baruch comes from Chachma. But Chachma, you need to touch the element of the Chachma that is Mamshech, that draws forth. Chachma is a very private, elusive point. And it naturally, remains secluded, remains hidden, remains a point. It's not interested in disseminating. For that, there is the Yesod element. Yesod means to bond. So the bonding element of every sphera is what takes the qualities and the energies of that sphera and passes it on to the next level. Therefore, the spigot, so to speak, the faucet of Chachma, like to take the life force that's in Chachma and send it downward is Yesod Chachma. And that's why the Yesod element of Chachma is called Baruch. Okay? As stated in Ma'ira. The Yesh Hefresh. Now he's taking it even further. Now, we know that there is, in addition to the word Baruch, and we know a lot of times there's actually a name Baruch. Right? People are called Baruch, and that's a male name. And then there are women, they are called Bracha. Right? So which means, what's the difference between Baruch? Baruch is the blessing. Bracha is really the one that is being blessed. Baruch is the mashpia, and that's why he's going to say, interesting, and in the very, very, very high levels, Baruch is the yesod element, the bonding element, the transmitting element of Chachma. Chachma is the source. Chachma is the male. Chachma is called father. And Bina is called female. She's the recipient. And she also has a yesod. Her yesod is the power in her to bond with her husband, her connection to her mashpia, her bonding energy that she has to fixate her mind and her entire desire onto her mashpia, onto her husband. And as a result of that, she creates space within herself to receive his influence, what he's giving to her. That element in her to receive, it's like Keli Machzik Bracha. It's like the vessel to receive the blessing makes her be called Bracha. And so Bina is called Bracha, but not the general Bina, the Yesod element of Bina. In other words, the openness in Bina, the recipiency of Bina to receive from Chachma and to connect and to lock spirits, to lock mind, to lock focus onto her mashpia that he should be giving to her, and thereby pull the energy from him to her. Over there, that's why she's called bracha. So again, once he's speaking about bracha, he's already explaining the very, very elements of it. First of all, there's a level of baruch that is very lofty, and that's in Keser. That's a roish umakar kol brachas. Maybe you can say that the roish, the head, and makar. Maybe I would say that roish is lower. Rosh might be chachma, and makar is the source of head. Maybe, I'm not sure. That would be Keser, but that's the highest level. Then he identified Baruch as Chachma. Within Chachma, since we're talking about Hashpa, that it's coming, it's a blessing. So it's a flow from Chachma. It's the Yesod from Chachma. And then he's already identifying that Bracha is the female element of the blessing, which means to receive the blessing. The Ihu Baruch, that he, the Zohar says, Ihu, he is Baruch, he is blessed. B'chinas Yesod, he is the blessing. B'chinas Yesod, Abba, the Yesod element of Chachma. Ihi, and she is Bracha, the blessed. Who is the she? B'chinas Yesod, Ema, the Yesod element of Bina, which is the recipient. That's the first female in Atzilus. It's the recipient from Chachma. In other places, it explains that when it says Ihu Baruch, that he is blessed, it's referring lower down. It's referring to the Yesod element of the Ze'er Anpin. Okay, there's two couples. There's two male-female elements in Atzilus. There's the higher couple, which are the intellectual faculties, Chachma and Bina. And then there is the lower faculties, which are Ze'er Anpin, the 6 emotions, and Malchus. Both of them are male-female. And in both of them, you can say Baruch and Baruch. Speaking on the higher level, so Baruch is the Yesod Abba, foundation of Abba, father of Chachma. And Bracha is the Yesod Ema, the Yesod of Bina. If you're speaking on a lower level, the Yesod of the Ze'er Anpin is called Baruch. And the Yesod of the Malchus is called Bracha. Okay, here he says the first couple, but he's going to bring soon different sources where it explains it, that Malchus is called Bracha. Malchus is called Kois Shel Bracha, a cup full of blessing. The Yesh Hefresh, now he says there's also a difference. Ben Baruch the Birchas HaShachar. When we pray, our blessings, our prayers are very, very much evolving around the word Baruch, blessings. So we start right from the beginning of our prayers. There is the morning blessings, or birchas hamitzvahs, and the blessings that we say when we do a mitzvah, which is also in the morning. It's when we put on the talis, or when we wash our hands, or when we make the blessings on the Torah, or when we make the blessings on the tefillin. So all these blessings, which are called birchas hamitzvahs, and in addition to that, birchas hanehenin, all the blessings we say when we enjoy any type of enjoyment, specifically food. So we make the blessing on a cup of water, shahakol niyabedvara, and so on and so forth. All the blessings. All these blessings, shehein mumaydo lamata. They're all from up down. That means they're all more of a baruch than they are a bracha. We activate, we say baruch, and we hit download. We're hitting the male elements. We're hitting the chachma. We're hitting the ze'er anpin. We might be hitting even keser. Whatever it is, we're hitting up there. And we're just allowing, in other words, we're download to happen. But in Shemona Esrei, which is the blessings of Amida, the blessing, which is more prayer than blessing, because the main element of Tefillah is the Amida, the Shemona Esrei, the 18 blessings. So even though there too are blessings, but over there the blessings are not so much just a hitting of a download and just being a recipient of a light flowing from above, but rather we're stimulating from below. And it's called, in Arizal, it's called Hala Asman. It's the raising of the feminine waters to evoke the blessing from above. So again, what the intention is a download, but the blessing itself has a lot of energy of upload, not just download, because we're uploading some kind of a stimulant to stimulate the download. So but it's dominating over here. Remember we said earlier that bracha is the woman's capability to evoke her husband, to draw forth from him his masculine light, his male energy. And she's like pulling him to it. She's engaging him and pulling him. That's called Hala Asman, the raising of the feminine waters. And that's more of an exercise of bracha than it is baruch. So Shehem al-Matalam or Birchas Hamida, which is the blessings of Hamida, al-Matalam, which are from the bottom up. Again, blessing is never upload. Blessing is always download. But here the emphasis is that the female is pulling the male blessing. That's the idea. As stated in Eitz Chaim. Look in Ramaz, Ramosha Zakusi and Zohar, the Ramaz al-Kamifligi, in these three places where he discusses there in Siddur, and not in the Siddur, in Likutei Torah, he explains strongly the difference that I mentioned earlier, that Ze'er Anpin is called Baruch and Malchus is called Bracha. Same idea, but this concept is discussed over there. He brings over there that in the word Baruch itself, sometimes it means a place from where blessing comes from, a blesser, and sometimes it means a blessed. It says Vahamelach Shloima Baruch can mean that the King Shlomo was, you can come to him with a pan, with a kvittel, you can come to him and ask for a blessing, because he's a distributor of blessings. Or Vahamelach Shloima Baruch is that the King Shlomo was blessed with all the heavenly blessings, that he's the super bowl receiving all these blessings. That's how the Alter Rebbe explains over there. But what do you have from all of this? Baruch, what comes out from all of this, that in the word Baruch, there's an incredible amount of depth to this word, the Baruch. Now, when we start teaching a little child, and we're teaching him Aleph Bet, like teaching him the Hebrew letters. So usually, you have these papers that have the letters, Aleph, Beis. But we know that in Chassidus, for instance, the Friedrich Rebbe writes, I think that his father, the Rebbe Rashab, when he was a little boy, when his father, the Rebbe Marash, the fourth Chabad Rebbe, I think it's with the Rebbe Marash to the, or maybe the Rebbe Marash to the Tzemach Tzedek. I'm not exactly sure by which one of the Rebbeim. And this was the order, and I guess this became the order by all the house of the Rebbeim, is that when they learned the initial Aleph Beis, they learned it from the Tanya. From the Sharblat, I think, from the first page of the Tanya, there is the Aleph of the word of Likutei Amorim. So they showed them the Aleph of the word Amorim. So even though you can just take a child and show him a letter A, B, C, you can show them just the letters, the Aleph base, but yet they didn't just show them the Aleph base. They took the Aleph from amongst the larger word. But in order not to confuse the child, what you have to do is you have to cover up the other letters, or else they can't just see this letter. You want them to focus only on the one letter. So you're extrapolating one letter. Now, it's taken from a word that is saturated with so much meaning. But you're blocking all the other letters. You're not seeing that, and you're only allowing the child to see that one letter. That's what he says. When you're trying to show a tinnik, and you want to teach him, and you want him to be a blessed child, and the whole Torah that he's learned should be a blessing. So you take the bays, the letter bays, and you're snipping off the bays from the letter baruch. The child doesn't have yet the capacity to understand the combination of letters. Not only doesn't he understand the meaning, he doesn't even know how to put together a word. And you're showing him one letter. To say that this is that particular letter, this is the aleph, this is the bet, this is the gimel, whatever. We're showing him only the bays, levad, alone. Mitevas baruch, from the word baruch. Now the teacher who immediately sees the word baruch, and in his mind, it flashes the whole idea of blessing. And if he's a Hasidic teacher who learned all these concepts, he gets carried away for a moment. The minute he hears the word Baruch, he's thinking Keser, Yisroel, Abba. He's thinking Yisroel Baruch, and he's differentiating. He can get lost for 20 minutes. Meanwhile, the child has a good time running around as recess because the teacher got lost. But then the teacher catches the child, he lassos him in, he brings him, sits him down, he says, "No, here we go. That's the bays." So when the teacher realizes he's snipping off a little crumb. So now suddenly in that little base, all the keser is gone. All the chachma is gone. All that rich knowledge, even the simple meaning that a blessing means is all gone. All you have is a letter base. But yet, hold it, it's the same base that was once part of the word baruch, which contained the entire enormous meaning of the word baruch. But now, once you separated it, it's nothing. It's infinitesimally small. Yet, it's the same letter. So this is going to serve for the concept that we were learning earlier of how high the 10 spheres were when they were part of a divine combination of 10 spherot, part of one or klali. It was completely different than when they start breaking down and becoming receivable by the worlds, because the worlds, the entire cosmic order of all the worlds together would be considered over here like a little child who can only perceive one tiny little crumb of this as it breaks away. And it's not just 10%. Once it breaks away, it becomes not even a millionth of a percent because it lost all that richness that it had when it was together. That's the idea that he's explaining. But he's a tzimtzum l'gaba malamet to the teacher. And the tzimtzum is shaloyi beis yachad im gimel oisius reish vav chav, that the beis should not be together with the other letters. The reish and the vav and the chav, she'ein zelafi yavanas atinik, because the little child can't understand it yet. It should be drawn on its own. And when this letter base gets broken off, levad alone, the base itself, it's not only that you don't see. The issue over here is not just that you don't have the reish vav and the chav. Forget it, sure you don't have that. But even this base was so lowered, because this base was so rich with content when it was part of the word baruch. And now it's just a letter. It's hollow. There's nothing in it. It descended tremendously, or the light went away from it. A tiny little fragment of crumb, a crumb of that light is still there. Shahaya boy, that was in it. When it was combined with those other letters, it had the entire rich understanding of the word baruch. And now it doesn't have it anymore. Now, if the word baruch is going to continue now, and he's going to explain, how about if the word baruch was not just baruch, but it was together with a whole sentence? Baruch sha'amar v'haya olam. Blessed is the one who spoke, and the world was created. Wow, when it's part of it's not just a word, part of a sentence, then the amount of energy that was in that letter base, because base was part of the sentence, now becomes exponentially greater. And yet then when you take this base away from that entire sentence, what has happened to it now? That's the idea that he's explaining. Okay, let's leave it, Be'ezus Hashem, the rest for tomorrow.